Hello, everybody. This is Fredo from the future, here to bring you another episode of Cinema Forecast, the movie podcast, where every month we are randomly assigned a category with 4 movies attached. Each week we do a deep dive into one of those movies in the context of the category. When we first started this project, we were calling ourselves Movie Roulette. Then we did a couple quick Google searches, realized we should probably change the name, so now we are Cinema Forecast. Cinema Fourcast. So sit back, relax, disregard all the movie roulette talk, and enjoy the episode. Hello, my name is Alfredo, and welcome to Movie Roulette.
Hello, I'm Connor. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello, my name is Alfredo, and welcome to Movie Roulette.
Oh, are we doing another one?
Hello, my name is Alfredo, and welcome to Movie Roulette.
What's happening here?
Oh, am I repeating myself? I have short-term memory problems. It runs in my family.
Very good. Welcome back, everyone. We're here today to talk to you about
Finding Nemo.
Yes, sir. And it was a fun watch. How are you doing today, Alfredo?
I'm doing pretty good. Today we're changing things up a little bit. We've changed location, a little behind the scenes, a little inside baseball. A lot on my mind, but nothing more so than you walking into my house with this coffee cup. And I take a look down at the coffee cup, just wondering, what did my guy order? And then I see it says Tommy, and I'm like, is that like a kind of drink? And
Did Connor steal this drink from someone?
so I point at it, and I say, "What's up?"
Yeah, so as Alfredo said, we're at a new location. We're at his apartment. And so on the way here, I stopped by a little bakery next to my place, got some sandwiches, got some coffee. And yeah, I tell him my name. I wait for a little while. I see my drink come up on the counter, and I walk over there to grab it. I'm assuming it's my drink, and it says Tommy on there. I'm like, oh, must not be mine. And a couple of minutes pass, and then, again, they shout out for Tommy, and I go back up, and it was for me. They somehow misspelled my name from Connor to Tommy, which is funny.
Poor guy.
I survived.
Yeah, I mean, I think as having like a less traditional American name like Alfredo, I feel like, that doesn't happen so much to the Connors of the world. But the truth is, I think that it's almost like armor. Like my name stands out so much.
Yeah, hard to because what do you mix up Alfredo with?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Like, I'll get Hunter every once in a while. Like, they'll mishear Connor for Hunter, which I hear. You got the N and the in there. 2 syllables.
That you do. You got those in there for sure.
But Tommy, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you found your way, though. You found your way to your coffee, dude. Just like Marlin found his way back to Nemo.
Wow.
That's what we call a segue.
That was a great segue, Alfredo.
Call back to the Matrix, because get on it, ride around a mall, and be a security guard. You remember at the Redmond Town Center they used to have the segways?
Yeah, that's a mall cop thing, right?
I think so. I feel like Paul Blart is on one as well.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of that movie.
So 2003, I kind of love how we're on like a little bit of a roll. 99, 2002, 2003.
Yeah, we didn't do that on accident. We did that on accident.
It's interesting because it is like sort of our childhood, like our the point where the two of us kind of got to the point in our brain development where these movies kind of will really stick with you. Some more than others, obviously, because when we started discussing this, it wasn't that like you weren't excited or that you were like reticent, but there was definitely like you're like, I'm very excited to revisit The Matrix, very interested to revisit Spider-Man. I'm so curious. You kept saying, you're like, how is this going to work with the hero's journey? Everything else fits in so well for me. Like I was saying before, I don't really remember the first time I watched this movie. It came out when I was like 12. And I think that I didn't see it in theaters, but it always, something that like I have a lot of, like in my memory a lot. I don't think I realized how much it's permeated pop culture until this rewatch and seeing how many quotes I hear people say all the time.
There's a lot of
I'm a piranha.
I didn't know that was one of the memes, but that's funny.
I mean, I guess, I think that one of my friends would just say that to me a lot. Yeah, do you remember the first time you saw this one?
I did see it in theaters, I'm pretty sure. Like I said, in the last episode, I did have it on DVD. Yeah, I think I liked it as a kid. I mean, I liked it enough to pick it up at the old Blockbuster when it came out. But it wasn't one that I put on rewatch a lot, like Spider-Man and The Matrix was, especially The Matrix. But yeah, it was fun revisiting this. Especially, I mean, yeah, the hero's journey stuff definitely there. I'll just say, I would say easier to follow the hero's journey than Spider-Man, but harder to follow than The Matrix.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit of a departure. A little bit like it is really nice how this ended up happening. I always love when you go one sort of side, very like straightforward, following the schema that you've been presented. I feel like this is kind of like the homework progression, right?
Right.
Let's give you The Matrix, which is a beat for beat. Let's give you Spider-Man, that's more of a curveball. Then let's settle somewhere in the middle where we have kind of a compromise.
Which really quickly is interesting because that's completely unplanned on our part.
Absolutely unplanned.
Yeah.
We came up with the order for this month.
Based on vibes.
Based on vibes.
Yeah.
Based on vibes. I can't wait to end of the episode.
Yeah.
Talk about what we're going to be talking about next week. But let's focus on this week. I really love this movie, and I was reminded of it. I think every time I watch it, I'm like, yeah, this shit really fucking hits for me. I wanted to shout out just from the beginning that the director, Andrew Stanton, even though you may not recognize his name, he is a big Pixar guy. He's been there since 1990. He worked on all the Toy Story scripts when he also wrote for A Bug's Life. And also, while I was looking
Love
this
A
up,
Bug's Life. And I see the parallels between this and A Bug's Life.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's that clear crossing of the threshold there. But I was so surprised. I didn't know Joss Whedon wrote on the first Toy Story. Did you know that?
Oh, actually, I think that does ring a bell. I think I remember when he was like getting into the Marvel stuff. That was brought up a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, he wrote and directed WALL-E, Finding Dory, Toy Story 5, and then John Carter.
Oh man, there's 5 of those bad boys now.
Toy Story?
I've only seen the first 2.
I think the 5th one is coming out. He's going to direct it.
Okay.
I also just wanted to mention really quickly, he does the voice of Crush, the turtle.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he does the seagulls, and I wrote a note on this, and
he does all the seagulls. That's so funny.
And then I wrote a note on this, and I wanted to just touch on it right now. He was born in Rockport, Massachusetts, and I love how the lobster, you hear him talking, and he's telling the story. And he has this very, very New England accent, and that's him as well, doing like a Massachusetts accent as a fucking lobster.
I'm always a big fan of the director cameo.
Yeah, for sure. It's in the animation, it kind of makes more sense to me as well.
They don't have to act.
It feels so much more natural.
Yeah. Well, I love the Peter Jackson in Lord of the Rings, just like guy on the street eating carrot or whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he shows up in each of them. Yeah.
Is that tally number 3 there?
It might be 4.
Might be 4.
I think we might have mentioned it twice last time.
Sick. Well, I guess let's just jump straight into the movie. I think this movie is well known for doing a bit of an up.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
I've never seen Up, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the intro to Up is, notoriously, infamously, extremely sad.
Yeah, super sad. So is this one, dude.
Yeah, it is really sad.
I feel like what is set up is I think with talking about crossing thresholds and hero's journey, we see this side of Marlin that we won't see for a long time in the movie. We see him happy, we see him carefree. He's funny, he's charming. The way he's talking to his wife, they're so cute together. Yeah.
Yeah, hopeful. Yeah.
And then all of that is snatched away, dude.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting to look at this, and we say this every time, but looking at it through the lens of the hero's journey. And now that we're on our 3rd movie, I feel like I've gotten a little bit better at kind of sorting out how do you approach this. And well, I guess we could just get into it. Should we read off the list of the hero's journey steps?
Do you want me to take it for you this time?
Sure.
I feel like you've been doing some heavy lifting with this. So, hero's journey. 17 Steps proposed by Joseph Campbell. He also known as sort of the monomyth. The 17 Steps being the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, supernatural aid, the crossing of the first threshold, belly of the whale, the road of trials, the meeting with the goddess, woman as the temptress, atonement with the Father, apotheosis, the ultimate boon, refusal of the return, the magic flight, rescue from without, the crossing of the return threshold, master of the two worlds, freedom to live. And if you'd like any sort of initial expounding on that, then check out our first episode.
Yeah, and that does remind me. We didn't really intro the gimmick of movie roulette.
Yeah. Well, fuck. Yeah. Okay, that's such a good point. We're gonna do this all natural right here, baby. So, on movie roulette, every month we are randomly assigned a category of sorts. Attached to said category are 4 movies that we have pre-selected that we feel match or embody this category, or perhaps have an interesting take on it. And then each week we examine each film in the context, in the lens of this sort of category. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And our first category we've been doing these last 3 episodes is the hero's journey.
And just to clarify, we did choose this one because, as I think Connor aptly put it, maybe off mic, maybe not on mic.
Yeah, I don't think we've said this on mic.
We'll say it, dude.
We're kind of going on our own little hero's journey with this podcast venture, so it felt very fitting for more ways than one, especially since it's such a, now especially going through these movies and kind of realizing what the hero's journey really entails. It's such a core concept for storytelling in general, so I feel like it's a really good place to kind of set this foundation for the way we look at all the movies going forward.
Absolutely. That's so true. I love that because, like we mentioned in the first episode, it is something that translates so well to script writing.
Yeah, for sure. And the more time I spend meditating and thinking about the hero's journey, the more I can't help just seeing it in all media around us. After we did our Spider-Man episode last week, we turned on Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. If anyone's a fan, amazing show. And just you're just hanging out watching it, and very quickly just started pointing out some of the hero's journey beats being set up and stuff. It's everywhere throughout so much of our culture and storytelling. So
yeah, I think it's so fun. I think we were just throwing out straight names of steps. Call to adventure. That's always the easy one to do as well. But getting back to Finding Nemo.
Yes.
I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, I know she's gonna get eaten. He's gonna lose his wife and at least 399 of his children. And I'm not gonna cry because I know what's gonna happen. And then it fucking happens, dude, and I started tearing up immediately. It's just so tragic, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll say I don't know if it was my mood or whatever. I didn't get hit super hard emotionally for the majority of the film. There was a couple parts that got me though, and we'll get into that. Circling back on what I was kind of saying about how I've began to understand how to approach seeing the hero's journey in these stories. And I think the second to last step, Master of Two Worlds, has really been a great identifying thing of what is the character's two worlds here. And that has really kind of helped me kind of hone in on what is the hero's journey here. Because based on what you think the actual character arc is, there's a completely different journey, as we discussed in Spider-Man, right? Where you can kind of see it in different ways. There's a typical way to see it, and then there's kind of a weirder take on what you think they might be going for here. And so right off the bat, it took me a while to figure out what is the arc here exactly, because at first, and we'll get into this, but at first
we will indeed get into it.
My catchphrase.
We're gonna make a T-shirt.
Yep. Yeah.
$20.
That, and we'll get to it later. Yeah, my first take here was the obvious. Oh well, he's just afraid of getting out there. He's shut in, like he's afraid of the ocean. Um, but then once he starts chasing after Nemo, he very quickly kind of throws his fear aside. I'm like, okay, well that's not quite the arc. Um, and I feel like as we go along, the real arc is more about trauma than anything else.
Trauma and trust.
Yeah, trauma and trust, faith in those around you. And yeah, being able to get past that trauma and not let it hold back your life and those around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think like what a great setup for that. Like I think one of the things about Marlin that I really like is other movies you are screaming at the screen, like at the characters, like, why are you like this? And it's like, bro, it's pretty fucking obvious why he's like this.
Yeah.
I think it's a good setup for like him being the overprotective father.
Yeah.
And just that scene where he's cradling him in his fin and you see the little crack
Yeah, I love
in the
that.
egg. And
that did hit me a little bit because
I'm never going to let anything happen to you.
It's so good. I had forgotten that Nemo had that little
He's got a lucky fin.
He's got a lucky fin. Yeah, I had forgotten that, and it's such a good little theme. And I think it's something a lot of people can relate to because you might have even been the one who had these overbearing parents, but I've definitely, like, throughout my life known people, especially who had medical conditions, that would definitely bring that out more of the parents of just like, hyper protective, need to be in control of every aspect of their day and all that just to make sure that their kid is okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I thought that was a good emotional hook. And real quick, I haven't watched many Pixar Disney movies lately, but I couldn't help just like getting a little like ping of nostalgia and just a touch of emotion in just the opening screen where they show the Disney castle and it has the "When You Wish Upon a Star" theme playing. Just like a really nice little like, I don't know, it just brought me. It's like all my entire life with these types of movies just kind of flashed before my eyes.
Yeah, I feel like the Disney thing always says wonder to me. The Pixar thing tells me I'm in good hands. Like I'm not gonna try and pretend that I'm not. I fucking love Pixar movies.
Yeah,
I love animation. It always, the medium just is what I think evokes the most sort of wonder in me, and I think that's what film is one of the major components of why it's so compelling.
Yeah.
And I feel like animation is like this distilled version of it where it's like that's like the concentrated, like this is like the like high proof spirit of it in that sort of format.
Yeah, that's a great take. I mean, in film, in the hands of a good director, every single scene and every shot has reason behind it, and like there's a reason why you include everything in a shot. But when you're drawing something out, it's guaranteed because all the vision had to be intended to be put on the screen.
It is the ultimate sort of expression of intention. Yeah. That is so true.
That's a good point. Yeah, and just going back to what you were saying about how he used to be more playful, more fun. I wrote down his pickup line. He's like, "You remember when we first met? Can you check to see if I have a hook in my lip?"
Yeah.
It's pretty cute.
It was cute. It was good stuff.
Yeah, I also wrote down, "I promise I won't let anything happen to you." I mean, it's kind of the centerpiece.
Theme stated, some would say.
Yeah.
But it is actually kind of a theme, like anti-theme.
Yeah, because it while that totally just comes from a place of love, it really highlights the themes of his overbearing nature here.
Dory perfectly later on in the movie, and we'll get to it. Friggin', she puts it perfectly.
Yeah, we will get to it.
Yeah, I think that when the time jump is done really well. I love how it's this reversal of what you would expect, right? Where it's the child excitedly waking up the father, get up, it's time for school. And it is like so cute, but when you think about it a little bit more, it's like, oh, today's the day I finally get away from my overbearing father. I can have a little bit of freedom, right? And I like that a lot. Because I think that one of the things that this movie does is that it's not just Marlin, it's Nemo becoming it's his hero's journey as well.
Yeah, I had some thoughts on that because it is kind of atypical I think, to have two paralleled heroes' journeys. And I would definitely say Marlin is the stronger of. Yeah,
Protagonist.
he's definitely like the main character in the real main journey. But it is really interesting that what struck me thinking about the themes and this stuff about trauma and parenting and stuff is that a lot of these themes feel more directed at the parents of the kids watching this movie than the kids themselves. So it's interesting that it's almost like there's less stuff to get from this movie as a kid in ways. Like it's more of a just like fun adventure if you can't understand these deeper themes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. He has the more impactful arc, but Nemo has an arc of belief that I think is enough to, like, as a kid kind of feel like, it's okay if I'm different. Like, and I think even kids can kind of see uh Marlin's anxiety and potentially identify with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too. I'm sure they can relate.
I like the foreshadowing.
Yes.
We are known foreshadowing positive podcasts.
Talking about the sharks and the sea turtles.
Sharks and the sea
Yeah.
turtles. Great thread. Great thing to like just keep through, make you feel like, ooh, I remember that. How old is a sea turtle?
Yes, exactly. That and a reoccurring theme we've seen in the other movies is the foreshadowing of the threshold, which, yeah, as we've mentioned, a big part of the hero's journey is crossing these thresholds. You start in your safe place threshold, and then you move into more the unknown threshold. And so these things that scare Marlin, this idea of sharks out in the deep waters, and his trauma with a predator, and then the sea turtles is like seen as this kind of like rare thing and all that. It's really setting up this mystery and wonder for the audience and for Marlin.
Hell yeah. I love the teacher because Pixar doesn't skimp on the like, let's just call things as they are, use these big terms, like kids are sponges for information. Like, we don't need to dumb things down for them, and I just love him fucking spouting off all the like huge words. He also says, let's keep our super esophageal ganglion to ourselves. Jimmy, I'm talking to you. And that's just such a fun little line. Like,
Yeah, I do like the teacher a lot.
Mr. Ray.
Yeah, it's really good. There's a couple. Well, there's the whole part where before they get there, Nemo is kind of like chiding his dad a little bit for being overprotective. And I like Marlin has this line, that snail was about to charge.
I wrote that down too, yeah.
They're talking about like the petting zoo. I thought that was really funny.
I think Albert Brooks really shines in that. He has that sort of like neuroticism, sort of like this anxiety, but he's charming enough to be like an emotional center in a story.
Yeah, definitely. And I love like we were saying, he used to be a much more charismatic, just going with the flow, funny kind of guy. And then we get this kind of scene to emphasize what he is now, which is his like terrible joke scene where he's just like over explaining every part of his mollusk joke. And
I fucking love it.
And
the
other parents,
funny.
Yeah, it is really funny. The other parents are just like, getting bored. Yeah, the whole bit of him being a clownfish and so he's supposed to be funny is a pretty good bit.
Yeah, it's great.
The seahorse is H2O intolerant.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious.
Also pretty funny.
They all say funny things, and then like
you guys made me ink.
Yeah, and the one fish says, "I'm obnoxious."
Yeah,
it's fucking hilarious.
Really good. Yeah, a lot of little bits. I will say there was a lot of bits that didn't land for me too. Just like more kiddie jokes that didn't like. I was chuckling throughout the movie, but there was a lot of stuff that was kind of missing. I should have written down the things that didn't land for me, but
yeah, I feel like it's a pretty like. It's like a home run for me. Like
really the whole thing. Every joke.
Love all the silly stuff. He goes, "Where do you live?" Like everyone has to answer a science question. I live in a sea. I'm an M. Like you can't pronounce an M.
Nice try, kid. Get on. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of good stuff. I just found myself like there's a lot of stuff I was like, yeah, it's a kids movie, but I'm glad it worked for you. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I'm kind of a silly guy. I like dumb little puns too.
Yeah, I also have a note that when they are on Mr. Ray's back and they're flying through the water away, the music's really good here, and it really sets up the vibe of wow, it's a big, beautiful ocean with a lot of sea. It's a big, beautiful world. Like, it's kind of setting up what Marlin is missing out on, what Nemo is because of Marlin missing out on a little bit. And yeah, the composer Thomas Newman, I thought did a great job. I looked him up a little bit. He also did, he did both the Into the Spider-Verse movies.
Sick. That's great. I love. Yeah, I do love that. The like sort of immediately kind of not only are we talking about what can be found across the threshold, we're peering out,
Mm-hmm.
sort of seeing the promise of adventure. And I love that the teacher like calls them explorers and shit. You know, I feel like that's a further strengthening this idea of like curiosity is important. Curiosity is important in children, and it's good to like foster that.
Yeah, and I actually had these first steps of the hero's journey written out at a different place. But like I said, it took me kind of a while to really understand what the full thesis of this movie was and like what the true hero's journey was. So I had originally had that the call to adventure step one was Nemo being taken. But now in hindsight, the call to adventure might really be Nemo having to go to school and having to let go of his precious baby. And because that leads perfectly into the refusal of the call, is that when he realizes they're going somewhere a little out of his comfort zone,
Yeah.
now he tries to pull Nemo back and says he's not ready.
Totally, and I think that both is probably the answer right there. They're both different calls to adventure. It's almost like, oh, you refused it once. Well, too bad. Now you're thrust into it.
And I think the two movies we've done before this also had multiple calls and multiple refusals. So that seems to be a pretty common trope, is that there's a bit of tug that, you kind of see the protagonist of a story getting kind of slowly convinced to go on this adventure. In this case, he doesn't really have much of a choice. I mean, you're going to go after your son. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that I also, one of the jokes here where they think that a boat is called a butt.
Yeah, I wrote that down too, yeah.
It's fucking funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Nemo being taken does feel like that sort of like ultimate like there's no going back sort of moment. I also it made me think when Nemo gets taken, I had this immediate thought like alternate universe, Liam Neeson does the voice of Marlin. I'm a clownfish with a very particular set of skills.
Really good.
If it hasn't been done before, I mean, this is what we were sitting here thinking about an intro. Maybe we should just gone with that.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a little bizarre to just bring Taken into it, but yeah, I do love that.
I don't think I can do a Liam Neeson.
I have a very particular set of skills. I don't know. It's a little close to my Hugo Weaving impression, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's also like from Northern Ireland, so I think you are missing that component as well.
Yes, you're right. So Nemo's taken. Marlin immediately starts chasing after him, and this is where I was like, okay, wait.
This also happens where his wife was and his 399 children were murdered. The drop-off.
Yeah, the drop-off. Yeah, very symbolic in a lot of ways. It's like kind of the drop-off of his life in a lot of ways too.
Marlin chases after Nemo. We see the goggles fall off the boat. Yeah. We get our little breadcrumb set up.
Yeah.
This movie does a really good job of setups and payoffs in a way that I think shows that it doesn't have to be the most intricate thing in the world, but just like doing these little things shows intentionality in filmmaking.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, this was when he immediately starts chasing after the boat. That's when I started to have to be like, okay, what is the actual arc of Marlin here? Because, he's not afraid to do this in this moment, right? Because this is his son, and it totally makes sense that you chase after him. And that's why I think the call to adventure and refusal of the call being just like letting his son go to school is more apt on how that fits into the hero's journey, because you actually see him struggling with that choice a little bit. Like that is more of what his character conflict is than just, going into the deep to find his son.
Yeah, for sure. I do think this is a case where one fear, one anxiety supersedes the other.
Absolutely.
It's fear of losing all memory, all contact with his wife, with his children, right? With like he's grasping onto that so tightly,
Yeah.
and it's like slipping through his grasp. And I do think it is like almost like a like just like boom moment where he just like fucking takes off.
Absolutely. Yeah. And totally believable, relatable. I mean,
Yeah,
no matter what your fears
absolutely.
are, if your kid
For sure.
gets kidnapped,
He's a parent. Like he's not a shitty. I mean, he's kind of a shitty dad, but he's not a totally shitty dad. I also had forgotten that he just wham like right into Dory. I love that.
Yeah, runs into Dory.
Does this feel a little supernatural 80 to you?
This is that's where I put it at as
Hell
well.
yeah.
Because I do think, and again, I was kind of like struggling to place exactly where Dory fits into the hero's journey, but there are aspects of her that are kind of these amazing gifts, right? She can read and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she does kind of provide something from another world in a way, like that fish can read it all is strange, you know?
She also can speak whale.
That's
Also,
right.
I think don't overlook the fact that her short-term memory issues, we immediately see as bad, as like that, like that is not good. But it's actually in a way, she's forced to trust people.
Yeah.
She like I think that her short memory actually ends up being more of a tool than, well, not fully of course, but like because some of her stronger moments is when she does overcome that. But I think we kind of it all makes sense, like these choices, right? Like her I mean she is a little like skeptical of Marlin. She's like, why are you following me? Which I love the way that scene is done.
Yeah.
She turns back and like the look on her face, she's an animated fish. And I gotta say, you know, Ellen does a great job with this.
She's really good.
I heard she's not the greatest boss, but you know, well, she is really good at voicing a fish. I will say that. And she definitely, Dory made me laugh. Makes me laugh a lot.
She brings
movie.
it. She's very playful. There's that part where she's singing later on, where it's like, oh yeah, she's really going for it. I liked it a lot.
Classic straight man, like you know, silly guy routine.
Yeah, and this was a revelation I had later in the film, but I guess I'll just bring it up now since you're mentioning it. That I do think there is a beautiful contrast between her short-term memory loss and the trauma that Marlin is dealing with, because in a way Marlin is stuck in the past and she's stuck in the present, and it's really about him trying to be more in the present and kind of let go of his past a bit. So I thought that was a really cool duality that they're setting up here. Next I have Bruce the Shark.
Great concept. I love how it's a 12-step program, and it's like kids like are gonna vaguely recognize that format.
Maybe,
but adults are immediately gonna know what's up. I also love it's so the framing of it, again, this sort of horror movie framing as he comes in, and then he calls them morsels and stuff. The language he's using is so scary and predatory.
He says, like, a couple of bites like you. Like, what are you doing out here? Yeah.
And I actually think that, in a way, what's very funny is that this is a show of... I mean, Marlin's kind of terrified, but he goes... Like, they go with them, and I think he feels sort of like forced, but still, such an interesting sort of step outside of himself that he's taking. Like, right? Like, now that his son is gone, he's doing these dangerous things.
Yeah. And so would you say that I actually am realizing, looking at my notes, I never even wrote down what step 4, crossing of the threshold, is, but I guess it's just when he chases after his son?
Dude, Into the Mines feels like a very, very visually... Yeah, like a great visual representation of that.
Yeah, and I like that Dory thinks that they're balloons for the party.
Yeah. And of course, his name is Bruce as a tribute to Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
Love that for the fucking film nerds out there.
Okay, yeah, I didn't connect that. That's great, though. Good call. I like the sharks. They're very silly. They're very fun. They hate dolphins. I think it's very interesting, the setting location for this film. Like
a sunk aircraft carrier?
Well, I actually meant just like the region of Australia that they chose that. And I kept wondering, like, is that significant? Is it just because there's such an interesting, like, sea life in that region, like the things like the jellyfish. Yeah, you got
riff.
Yeah, you got a lot of interesting wildlife there. They do have this great line from the shark where they're like, "Oh, it was probably an American."
Yeah.
So the sharks have beef with the Americans, which I think is really
and
fun.
Dolphins.
A nice little jab from the creators.
I think I was thinking with it potentially scientifically motivated, like maybe they were like, oh, this is kind of like the fit, like maybe Andrew Stanton went down a rabbit hole of clownfish, these fish, and then he's like, oh, this is where this would happen, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. That would have been fun to look into. Actually, is like,
They
is
also
this all like
do they live in the Great Barrier Reef?
clownfish?
No, like at the beginning. Is that where
Oh,
they are?
Yeah,
Perhaps.
couldn't tell you, but makes sense.
Damn, who's mapped out this movie, dude?
Yeah, we need to look
we
up some
need a
graphs.
map,
Yeah.
dude. I love a good map for a fucking movie.
I'm with you.
Poor Chum, dude. Chum is really struggling. You know, when we look at this as a fucking like allegory for addiction, it's like it's kind of a little rough when, like, especially if you've had experiences with people like that, like who are struggling with that. Then I feel like they kind of like really fucking like nail this on the head. Like she like just the drop of blood, and like
Yeah.
he sniffs it, and he immediately is like another person. You know.
Yeah, and I meant to mention this earlier as well. There's a couple parts in this movie where they really do a good job of filling you with dread and horror. And the first time was when they first see the creature, like in the beginning, when they see just out in the open this kind of a silhouette of this large predator fish. I don't even know what type of fish
Ooh,
ate it.
barracuda.
Is it a barracuda?
You mean in the very beginning?
Yeah, what ate his
Yeah.
children?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I think it's a barracuda.
Very ominous looking, and I have that again here where Bruce smells the drop of blood and his eyes just completely dilate. It's just really like scary.
It's
Freaky.
like he just did a fucking bump of coke. He's like, I have like a month of sobriety, and he's like, suddenly he's just like the fucking, you know, the fucking junk is kicking in, and he's like, I want more.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And then of course, like I think what I like about this as well is, like I've been saying, there's setups, right? Like this sort of causality that makes sense. And so they say, Marlin, like, what's your problem? He's like, I don't have a problem. And they're like, they all say denial all at once, and that's so true. It's perfect. Like
Yeah.
we're putting it into words now.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose to him going up, right? To them sending him, because then he looks up, he sees the goggles there. Boom, he recognizes. I need to stop snapping, but it just feels so good. But he like recognized the goggles. He's like, those are the diver's goggles. And
Yeah.
now we have this two things happening at once. They're being chased by the sharks, trying to hold on to the goggles, you know, and it's there's all these stakes because this is the only connection he has to where is his son,
Yeah,
right?
totally. I love when the mines go off and it creates a little fart bubble for the birds.
Yeah, the pelican fart, yeah.
And then the other bird's just like, nice.
And then flies away. Yeah, he's pissed, dude. He's fucking pissed. Yeah, and then I think is this where we get introduced to the tank gang?
Yes, because then after the mines go off, my next note is the human thinks he saved Nemo, which is very
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Did he have a name? It wasn't Dennis, right? It was just Dentist.
He had it was
It might have been Dennis.
no, something Murray,
Oh, okay.
P Murray.
I don't remember.
It's what's written on the fucking goggles on the back.
Oh,
I also have
fair.
a note here in the tank. This is Nemo's threshold fully crossed. He is now in a tank. Like this is, you know, the antithesis to the ocean. Really, like in a water context.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Nemo's definitely in the belly of the whale.
Yes,
here,
I also wrote that down
which
as
is
well.
step 5. Which is I didn't write it down because I was trying to focus through just the lens of Marlin. But like we were saying earlier, yeah, there are kind of two parallel heroes' journeys going on.
Yeah, we also do set up that Dory can read when with the goggles.
Mhm.
Before the goggles, actually, no, they find the goggles and they're like trying to escape, and then she says, "Oh, what does this say? Escape." Oh, that's kind of similar to the word escape. We should go this way. And then Marlin, and they're going, and then Marlin's like, "Wait, you can read?" Like it's this fun sort of thing. Again, like you said, like her showing these sort of supernatural things that she can do. Back to the tank though. I love all of the fish are like into dentistry.
Yes, I thought that was such a good bit.
They're
that
all
kept-
saying
and the
these-
pelican, Nigel comes in. He's like, "Oh, are they?"
Jeffrey Rush, dude.
Oh.
You know, from fucking Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes, yeah.
Several other films.
Yeah, I liked him a lot in this.
Yeah, he was great. He was really good. He like not a huge role, but like a very pivotal, important role.
Absolutely. Um, they also set up Darla. I think that was her name, right?
Yes, that was her name. She's
That's the
terrifying.
the little girl. Yeah, I love. Again, this is later, but every time she shows up, you get the psycho music.
I think this is important for establishing something that's always like a great tool for ratcheting up the tension in film is you have a countdown. You have a timer, a clock that is going
Yeah.
now that you are constantly thinking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Stakes are high for sure. Also, I am generally not super great at identifying vocal actors or just voices in movies. But it's so funny that we watched Spider-Man last week because
Second Willem Dafoe movie, baby.
immediately recognized his voice, and I
Yeah.
was so happy to hear him here. Yeah.
He is so fucking good in this
Yeah,
movie.
he is.
I love how he is now. We've got Dory is sort of like Marlin's sidekick, his supernatural aid. We have Gil as this sort of mentor for Nemo, right?
Yeah, he's kind of like a second father figure in
Well,
certain
and
ways.
he believes that Nemo has the ability to do things. 'Cause
Right,
he
he's
gets
kind of
stuck
He's kind of feeling
immediately, and
yeah,
he goes, "No,
yeah.
let him. He
Yeah.
can get out himself." And he's like, "I've got a bum fin, or like I've got a small," and like he goes, "So do I." And then like we see, right?
Yeah.
What a badass! He's even as a fish. What a badass!
Yeah, I think he says to him, "You got yourself in, get yourself out." And I love that because it is a lot about just having faith in yourself. If you're Nemo, but he's filling that role that Marlin doesn't take, which is having faith in Nemo. So that's great. Nice little parallel there.
Yeah, and then we also get Brad Garrett, the brother from Everybody Loves Raymond, as the pufferfish is great. And Allison Janney as Peach, the starfish. That was one of the ones one of the performances I really loved. I love the bit of her trying to talk to them with her face pressed to the tank.
Yes.
And they're always like, "We can't hear you," and so she
Yeah, I also really like
peel herself off.
Jock, I believe.
Yeah, the little French shrimp dude.
Yeah, he's really funny. Joe Ranft, not familiar, but
No,
that is
me
the
neither.
actor.
Might even be an animator or one of the writers, something
yeah.
like that.
Never know.
They wake up then, cradled in the goggles, kind of like a hammock,
Yep.
and quickly realize like, oh shit, we're in like danger.
Yeah.
And I love them plunging into the darkness because it is kind of like, oh, if you didn't know, we are now fully in the unknown. And I think there's no better way in the ocean to demonstrate that than with the deep sea and the creatures of the deep sea. I do like in the dark the whole like, are you my conscience thing?
Yeah.
And then there is eventually with the anglerfish, that is again horror movie sort of like framing.
Yeah.
And I love the whole game of like they find the goggles as they're being chased, and she needs the light from the anglerfish to read the goggles, and so Marlin's getting chased around, and it's a very fun scene. Like this movie, for being a kids movie, a lot of really good action, a lot of really well choreographed, obviously well animated action.
Yeah.
I love that part, and then that's where we get her to say P. Marie 42 Wallaby Way, whatever, Sydney, Australia.
Yep.
And we get the breadcrumb, fucking what am I trying to say? We yield from it what the information we needed.
Right. Yeah. They at least they have no idea where this place is yet, but they at least have an address.
We've got a lead.
Yeah. A few quick things here. I liked when Dory's sleeping before they wake up. There, she is a really she's like talking in her sleep. She has a funny line. Yes, I'm a natural blue.
Yeah.
Pretty good. This is Marlin does retreat from going down into the darkness for a moment, which since I was kind of looking for some of his
another refusal.
Yeah, I was looking for some of his cowardice to show up, and so far he had been very just like gung ho, no, I'm going in. So it was nice to see a little bit of that hesitation here. Yeah, and then when they find the anglerfish, Marlin has a line, I'm feeling happy, which is a big deal for me. I'm just like, oh, it's really sad. The next thing I have is the initiation ceremony for Nemo in the tank. They tell him he's joining the eternal bonds of tankhood.
Yeah, I think this on a rewatch, this is the only like questionable thing, the like use of the Polynesian culture here.
Mm.
And even though I did chuckle at Mount Wanahakalugi, it is
A
I feel
little
like
insensitive.
it is like kind
Yeah.
of disrespectful potentially,
Yeah,
but
I see that.
I think, not like not a horrible
They're
representation.
not canceled yet.
No. We're coming after them. We're the culture police.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I like before he goes through the ring of fire, which is just like the bubbles from their little tank volcano. Peach goes, "He's just a boy." It's just so dramatic, classic.
Yeah, pretty fucking cute.
Oh yeah, and he gets a new name here. He's Sharkbait now.
He is shark bait now.
Interesting.
Ooh ha ha.
Yes, sir.
Stop it with the shark bait.
I love the plot to escape. It's very clever. Like it's a good. It reminds me almost like of a
Heist.
Yeah, I was just about to say heist movie. It's like here's how we're gonna rob the bank. First, we have to stop the filter, which is gonna be dangerous. But you're the only one who can fit through this thing. It's like you're the one who can fit through the vent, so you can turn off the alarm, kind of thing, right? And so that has danger behind it. And then
It puts Nemo at a very important position in the plan too.
yeah, he's the only one who can do it.
He's the crux of the plan. He needs to believe in himself to be able to execute.
Totally. Yeah, and then Finn believing that Nemo can do it. And I think Finn has an interesting little arc here. It's a very small arc, but guilt. Yeah.
No, Gil.
Gil. Yeah, but Gil also has guilt, which is around his feelings. Not yet, but around his feelings of willing to put Nemo's life on the line in order to escape.
Yeah, like is
And
he being
struggles.
Is he being selfish?
Yeah, and he struggles with that a little bit, and I like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's good. It's good fucking character. Like it's a smaller tangential character, but who has importance and has depth.
Yeah,
And we love to see that shit.
we do.
I love all of the physical comedy in the next scene with all the fish when she said the thing about asking directions.
Yeah. Well, before that, I have Marlin tries to split from Dory before they run into those fish.
Yeah. And then when he comes back, they're all like, "Is this guy bothering you?"
Yeah, I really like the fish. But I thought that was a good refusal of the call moment as well, where
Yeah, absolutely.
he's kind of like he is going to need her, but he doesn't trust people.
Yeah,
and
like he's not refusing to go find his son. He's refusing to engage in this with her.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, that kind of goes back to like what is his character arc here, right? And like you said, like trust is a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what she said. Dory says at one point in the movie, "Trust, it's what friends do."
Right. Totally. Yeah, so I have a couple notes from the swarm or school of fish or whatever, because I love them too. They're super funny. I love all their little gimmicks. I love Dory trying to explain what Marlin's looking for, and this is a bit that just keeps running throughout the movie where she just always calls Nemo the wrong name.
She calls him Fabio at this point.
and Chico.
And Harpo.
It's a lot of good ones. And they tell Dory to swim through the trench, not over it. But Marlin doesn't trust Dory.
And this is when she says, "Trust, it's what friends do."
Yeah.
And ultimately they don't, to their detriment.
To their detriment, and especially to Dory's detriment. She's the one who ends up getting hurt here. So Marlin's refusal of the call here to trust Dory ends up immediately hurting the people around him, which is a little microcosm of his relationship with Nemo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I was even starting to put notes here that him dealing with Dory is him learning to be a better parent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can't fully control Dory in the way that he has been overbearing and overprotective of his son. He has to, like, surrender in a way because she's forcing him to.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't really think of her taking Nemo's role, but I think that's definitely there. Because, yeah, she's definitely, like, I saw her as someone who is helping him on this journey he's on, figure out what he needs to do in order to become a better father. But there is definitely a bit of this is a bit of a parent-child situation here because of her short-term memory and her inability to, like, I want to say take care of herself, but hey, she's made it this far.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and then again with the horrifying sort of framing, the fucking jellyfish
Yeah.
appearing, that's fucking so freaky. But
Yeah.
I do like how we see this side of Marlin where he's sort of making some progress, where he's like, he gamifies the escape with her, right? Let's bounce off of them, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And he gets
Like you would
carried
for a
away
child.
in the fun. Yeah, absolutely. He gets carried away in the fun, and then suddenly he's like out of it, and he looks back. And this is like a moment, right, where this just maybe like 5 minutes ago in like movie time, he was about to, maybe not that long, but maybe more time, who knows, but he was about to depart from her, right? And now he's like, no, I have to go and get her. I have to get her back out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of themes, I think. It's kind of an important scene in a lot of ways. It's really setting up that he struggles to embrace fun. He struggles to just enjoy life. And this is a moment where by relating to Dory in order to make it through, he ends up actually enjoying life and having fun. And he does end up erasing her at the end just out of his own volition, not just because he's trying to get her out, but just because he's enjoying it. I also think the jellyfish field in general is one of the coolest looking things in the whole movie. Like just the way it's all lit up and like, I don't know, the overall vibe of it. I just thought was really cool.
they're like transparent a
Yeah,
little
and
bit.
just the movement of all of them.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
it's very cool.
It is kind of like the biggest animation flex, it feels like.
Yeah, maybe it definitely stood out to me.
And then we have we got back to the tank after I think they make their, well, they try to make their escape, they get all stung.
Yeah,
And when we go back to the tank, the thing that's most striking to me about that part is Nemo doesn't believe that his father would come and get him.
yeah,
Like,
that's the note I have too.
it's so fucking tragic. But then we do have, I love the movie deals with emotionality by giving you these ups and downs and natural sort of places to like, okay, now we see Nemo going for it, right? He goes in, he gets the pebble in, but then we have another moment of like, all is lost. There's actually no escape. Like, he wasn't able to do it. But that's okay, kid, you know? Like, we see that his peers still like support him, like, and appreciate his effort.
Yeah, and this is where you see Finn, like
Gil,
Why do I keep calling him Finn? Maybe I was just thinking of
you're
Nemo's Finn.
fixated on his fin.
Yeah, you're right. I have a lot to learn from this movie. Gil was horrified by what he did here, and he definitely regrets that he sent Nemo in there, and I like that.
Yeah, the whole thing with them like feeding the frond up into the tube,
Mhm.
and he's like trying to grab at it.
Yeah, good tension. Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
Really well done.
yeah, I thought that was a great little scene too. We go back to the turtles.
Well, this is where we
They
meet
introduce
the turtles.
the turtles. Yeah.
Potentially some of my favorite characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Crush and Squirt are just like, they're modeling this sort of like idealized father-son relationship.
Yeah, this is okay. So, like I said, I was kind of struggling to figure out exactly what the arc was here until this scene. When Squirt, the little turtle, like goes out of the stream, the jet stream, and Marlin immediatly panics. And you can tell he's having some trauma like triggered
Yeah,
here.
for sure. And Crush says, "Let's see how he rides solo. Fly solo," is what he says.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and how he comes back in. That's probably the first like real strong pang of emotion
And
I got.
it's not just that, dude. I teared up because the first thing he says to him when he gets back is he says, "You totally rock, Squirt." Like,
Yeah.
he's a father who like believes and encourages him so much.
Yeah.
And dude, it's just like this family shit. I am such a lucky person, dude. Like, I love my parents so much, and I have such a strong relationship with my father and my mother. And when I see these, I don't tear up for like what I wish could have been. Although there is always that, right? Like a longing, right, of a doubt. But it's because I'm like, dude, I have that in my life. I'm so lucky, dude. I got my crush. Mr. Turtle was my father, dude. This guy's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And he tells him the story about how the turtles, they lay the eggs on a beach and they have to find their way back.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate
Very thematic.
surrender, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Crush is hilarious. He has. I just love the surfer voice in general. SoCal voice. You have that great. You got some serious thrill issues,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, for sure. Which is so funny because it really isn't like true. I also I did have this as sort of a meeting with the goddess.
Interesting. That's a really good point.
I
Yeah.
think Crush is imparting
Wow.
these tools.
Especially since he's like 150 years old.
Yeah, dude.
That's actually a great point. I ended up putting Dory as the goddess because she does do a lot of similar things as Crush here.
Yeah, I think it's Dory is like sort of like actions, right? Like she doesn't say. I mean, she does.
There's a
sometimes,
couple parts. There's a couple parts.
but like I think Crush is is the wise, like the wisdom, like
Yeah.
imparting the sort of like the wisdom of the gods onto him.
Yeah, and I think it fits better because in the hero's journey, the goddess is supposed to be something along the adventure you meet, not like a partner on the adventure. So
Yeah.
I would say Crush definitely fits more of that, like the oracle role from the Matrix here.
Yeah,
Just
totally.
something you along your adventure you come across and they impart great wisdom to you.
Absolutely.
I also like that line, Mr. Turtle is my father.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's so fucking good. And then everything feels like it's serving purpose. He's telling the story, right? And it's not just so that we can get a summation of what has happened so far, but it's so that word can start to spread.
Yeah, I love this. Well, as I mentioned last time, I'm a big montage guy.
Yeah.
And I love just showing all these events. It just has this feeling of excitement behind it. The music, the excitement of all the characters as they're discussing this journey.
A fun animation flex as well, like the friggin' swordfish, nice parry, old man. It's great shit. And then the lobster, who's like, from fucking New, like that's so good.
Yeah, and I think the dolphins are talking every time they jump
go
out of the
up
water.
which also is like, oh, because they're mammals.
Yeah,
This is fucking sick. I love that.
I love that
I
too.
feel like Pixar does a lot of these really like informed choices.
Yeah, I agree. There's also the scene before the montage where he looks over at Dory and she's just like the embodiment of like joy and laughter and fun. And I wrote down here that Dory is Marlin's reflection of his missing joy in life, which I think is why I landed on her as the goddess. But like I said, I think Crush is a better fit there. But they both.
Yeah, I mean, like Dory is the antithesis of Marlin. That's why this is so fun. Marlin has a good memory to the point where he has deep-seated trauma. Dory can't remember anything. Marlin doesn't have any fucking fun, doesn't trust anyone. Dory, like I said, is kind of forced to trust people and loves to have fun.
Totally.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point where Nemo hears the retelling.
Yeah, well, there is a little, great little iconic introduction of some characters at the end of this montage when you arrive at the pelicans all hanging out, and the seagulls are there. The classic mine seagulls. Mine. Just like one of the things that definitely I think has permanently invaded culture. A lot of memes, a lot of references to those silly guys. It's hilarious that it's the director. I'm glad I know that now.
Yeah, it's hella fun. I love that.
And then this is where Nigel, our friendly pelican buddy, learns about Marlin trying to find Nemo. And he goes to tell Nemo. And this is a very sweet moment for Nemo realizing that his dad would do anything to get him, and that inspires him here.
At first, he doesn't believe it either. He's like, "No, that doesn't sound like my dad." And he's like, "No, his name was like some sort of sport fish, tuna." And he goes, "Marlin," and he like, immediately he gets excited.
Yeah.
So it's good to see, like, there was that like in him, right? Like it's like he didn't want to voice it because it's, maybe getting his hopes up to think that his dad would do that. But I feel like it shows, that there's a love for his dad. But yeah, very exciting moment. Like I feel like things are coming together.
Yeah, and he does what he needed to do here because he's given that Like this is kind of his father's love is kind of the boon here, right? Which has been a theme and it's been recurring through all these movies we've been watching. But his father's love and faith in him is his inspiration to get the first part of this plan done. Basically, right after he hears this, he just goes for it and he blocks the filter.
It's fucking sick. I love that moment where he's just like so inspired, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Is he fucking trying to kill himself? And he grabs the pebble and he just goes in there and takes care of business. And in the same scene, we are then told Darla's gonna be there in 48 hours. So we had a timer set up. Now, we know exactly how much time is left.
Yeah, totally. I like that.
And with the tank, there's a lot of this great oh, hope is lost. Hope is lost.
Yeah, totally. We go back to our two heroes, Marlin and Dory, and they are lost in the open sea. And I thought this was a funny line. Marlin's like, I've definitely seen this floating speck before. Yeah. It's just like
I had a note earlier that I love that the water isn't perfectly crystalline.
Yeah,
it's obvious that there's particles in there,
totally.
Which is very realistic. And before this, I also Squirt is explaining how to properly exit, dude. And he goes, and Marlin says, "You are so cute, but I can't understand anything you're saying." And they're like, "Okay, just go for it."
Yeah, I like it a lot.
And then the shape.
Yes, again, there's kind of that is this very ominous callback to the shape and the distance in Marlin's kind of dramatic moment. It's the whale. And this is a moment that this is some regression for Marlin here, because Dory says, "Trust me, I speak to whales. I got this." And they get swallowed by a whale, or at least not swallowed, but thrown into the mouth of a whale.
Yeah, and I love the animation here. The teeth, I don't know if all of you are nerds who love to collect random facts like we are, and I don't know if you know this, but whales' teeth are actually that. They're like these brushes.
Yeah, no, and there's something about that imagery that was even creepier to me.
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
Even though it's just realistic.
I also love how now they're literally in the mouth of the whale.
Yeah, so I mean, this has to be the belly of the whale trope in the hero's journey, just because, come on, they're inside of a whale. Actually, one little note there. When Dory tells Marlin to trust her, there's a little emotional moment of him looking at the scars from the jellyfish field and him reminded of what happens if he doesn't trust her. Yeah,
I felt there was a little bit of I felt a little bit of sort of woman as temptress potentially, because Marlin is relapsing into his old anxious ways, and it's almost this moment where he can be I don't need this progress. I can just revert to being my old self. It's not a super strong moment like that, but I felt a little bit of that in his sort of going back to his previous sort of modus operandi of just being the ocean is scary.
Yeah, no, I like that. I didn't put down women as temptress in this watch through. It didn't fit anywhere for me, but I see that. Yeah, for sure. There is temptation to regress a lot, for sure.
And I love the way we're cutting between it's not constant, right? It's but I think after he trusts her, right, while she's trying to talk to the whale, they end up getting, I don't know which happens first, but I just did have a note about Scum Angel. Hey, look, Scum Angel on the tank.
Oh yeah, no.
And I wrote Scum Angel would be such a good band.
That is a good band name. Yeah, we do cut to the tank next. I have Jacques is ashamed that he's been cleaning the tank.
Yeah.
I think he just says, "I'm ashamed."
Yeah, and he has the little goatee, the green goatee. And it is cool too, just to see sort of that progress again, reminding us of the timer, the impending doom of Nemo.
Yeah, totally.
And I did also feel maybe fitting with the sort of woman as temptress thing is dude, Marlin trusted Dory and they got swallowed by a fucking whale.
Right. Well, yeah. But that's why I put it down as a regression. But usually the temptation, I guess this is the fact that he trusted her and it ended up going badly for them. I guess there is some temptation there, as if it's almost in this case, she's the temptress that led him away from being able to trust people for momentarily here. So I can kind of see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's a little. I'm definitely not being that like literal. I think it's just the temptation of following the old toxic patterns here for
Sure.
him, and how he has been sort of vindicated, or like he has been validated for like being like, yeah, dude, I shouldn't have fucking trusted you. Like
Hmm.
this whole journey is a fucking joke. Like I'm not really learning anything. Like
Yeah.
the ocean is a scary place. I always knew that, and I shouldn't have fucking trusted you.
Yeah.
But I love that ultimately, as like we will see later on, that he's wrong.
Yeah. Totally. Um, I think this was probably the second scene that stood out the most for me, just visually, being inside of the mouth of the whale, the rolling waves and the tongue flicking about. I just thought it looked really, really cool.
Yeah, the fucking huge uvula.
Yeah, there's just an awesome look to it. Um, and just the idea that they're in this like pool of water inside of its mouth is just awesome. Um,
And this is where she says the thing that I had mentioned earlier, where he tells her, "I promised to never let anything happen to him," and she
yeah.
says, "That's a funny thing to promise, because then nothing would ever happen to
Yeah,
him."
which is really kind of the crux of the story.
I had the literal word crux in my mind,
Yeah.
and then as the water starts to empty, we get this very, very clear sort of like optimist versus pessimist. Like, like he says, it's half empty, and she goes, "I think it's half. I think it looks half full."
That's very good. Um, oh yeah, and there's this great moment here where they're holding on to the tongue. Dory is falling in, and she's trying to convince Marlin to drop her because the whale is speaking to her. And there's this great callback here of Marlin saying, "You think you can do these things, but you can't." And he calls her Nemo.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really powerful scene. And then Dory tells him, "You need to let go."
Yeah, it's
which
time to let go.
which again is crux of the story.
And he says, "How do you know nothing bad is going to happen?" And she says, "I don't. I literally have in my notes, this is what the movie is about."
Yeah.
This felt like a sort of atonement with the father moment for me as well. And he does ultimately let go.
Yeah. Interesting. What did I put? Okay. Yeah, no, I do have an atonement with the father moment. I had it later, but I think that definitely fits there as well.
And of course there can always be several, right?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, my goal is to try to find the clearest steps, but as we've found in each of these movies, like, yeah, they're going to be all over the place. And if it does come up multiple times, I'm going to write it down multiple times, you know.
And she's right. They're in Sydney fucking Harbor, dude.
Yeah, they did it.
They fucking did it.
She can speak to whales, or it was
Yeah.
just completely coincidental.
Yeah, and then he says goodbye like a whale, and she goes, "I wish I could speak whale."
Pretty funny.
Yeah, and here we go. Movie over. He's going to find his kid. Everything's going to be great.
We did it.
We did it. And that's the great part about this movie is there's more tension to come.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I actually have we have Daria comes, and this is where we get the
Well, before that, there's the big wrinkle, and that's what I'm saying. The tank got cleaned overnight.
yeah.
Like she
Good
wakes
point.
up, she's like, "It's a beautiful day. We're gonna leave," and the tank is clean.
Plan ruined.
Plan ruined
And
again.
I love when a great plan is set up and then it falls apart,
Yeah, for sure.
because
And-
it's very easy to just, they already had the plan. You just throw a wrinkle in the plan when it's like half executed, but they couldn't even execute any of this plan.
Yeah, and if like I said, it feels like everything is fucking coming up fucking Marlin and Nemo, right? Like it's going so well. Marlin, Dory have arrived at Sydney Harbor. Boom. Plan ruined. Now Darla is like a very real threat. That ticking clock is still in play.
100%. And now she's in the building, so like death is at your door, literally. Kind
Yeah,
of.
for sure.
God,
God, she's terrifying.
yeah, the psycho music.
Yeah,
that,
dude.
That was definitely a big laugh out loud moment for me. She opens the door and slams it against the wall, and a picture falls off the wall. And the psycho music, it's really
Yeah.
good. No, I love that.
The way that Nigel runs into
Yep.
Dory and Marlin is super fun. Like we
Yeah.
got this guy Gerald, and they're like making fun of him, right? And it's lots of things coming together. I love Marlin's refusal to be swallowed.
Yeah.
He's like holding Dory and him back.
yeah,
in the
I've
throat.
gone too far to let this stop me. Something
It's
along those
fucking
lines.
sick, dude.
I also have this when Nigel picks him up is the magic flight. And it kind of fits. It also kind of doesn't usually. I think the magic flight usually happens after you've accomplished your main goal. Um, but it does feel like this kind of a moment of not supernatural force, but like a force you wouldn't expect, like, getting you that last little bit of your journey. Like he brings them to the office, right? So it kind of fit for me, but
For sure. Yeah, I have a different one that spoke to me more,
okay.
but
Sure.
that totally makes sense.
I love this little bit here of when when Nigel flies in and there's absolute chaos in the dentist's office. It's a really
Yeah.
funny bit of the people in the waiting room.
Yeah, they're just watching from the other side. Yeah, for sure.
Because the dentist is
And
already such a like
Nemo is
phobia
playing
for
Yeah,
people.
Nemo's playing dead as well. Like I like
Oh,
that.
yeah, smart. Yeah, Nemo. Clever little.
Yeah,
clever
he's
little
a
trickster here.
character. There's Alexander Gold, I believe, is the
Mhm.
voice actor there.
Yep.
But yeah, like a well done kid as well, I would say.
Man, again, I wrote Finn Gil. It's Gil
Yeah.
Connor.
I also think I felt like in this moment Marlin does have to fully surrender, right? He has to believe, he has to trust Nigel, that Nigel is actually going to be able to get him away from the seagulls and take him to his son.
Did he have much choice? Doesn't he just kind of snatch him up?
I feel like I felt like it was a choice. I mean, because they start getting away from him, like flopping away, and I mean, I don't know. He could have taken his chances with the seagulls, I guess. It felt like a very strong character moment for me, and I felt like this is a moment of like his old self dying, and like
Mm.
now he's actually trusting people.
Sure. Yeah, I like that.
I think it was very like emotionally salient for me as well. So I did feel like it was an apotheosis of sorts. Like
Okay.
this ability to like trust him.
Gotcha.
But I mean, what's interesting is that then there's more, right?
Yeah, I have another moment we're gonna get to soon is the apotheosis. I really have like the last like 5 or 6 steps of the hero's journey all kind of jam packed in this last little section here. I have another one for this, but I put on number 14 again. If this was Nemo's hero's journey, I think this is kind of a rescue from without moment where Gil saves him when all hope is lost. The bag is broken out on the dentist tray. Gil very craftily uses the volcano to shoot him out onto the tray so that he can flip Nemo down the sink, so that and this has been set up as well, foreshadowed, that all pipes lead to the ocean.
All drains lead to the ocean.
Yeah.
I had this as a magic flight / rescue from without.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I mean, I guess you could also feel like, in Marlin's case, he is getting sort of a rescue from without from Nigel, right? In that moment.
Yeah, and I mentioned this in the Matrix episode that magic flight and rescue from without are like very close, and they're very close to each other in the steps of the hero's journey as well.
Yeah.
But they're both about being saved, so it's interesting that they're like right next to each other, saved from some outside force.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like the very specific moment of being like rescued from without, and then there's this flight.
Yeah.
Magical flight together.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like the timing of everything as well. Marlin and Dory come in just in time to see Nemo dead. So now there's like this further complication. It doesn't feel like overwrought like it can in other movies where you're just like, dude, let them just be together. Like it all makes sense. I'm emotionally invested in all of these moments as well.
Yeah. No, it all works. Well, and I think this final loss of hope is a good thing to set up the final arc of Marlin, right? He's lost all hope here. He thinks that Nemo's dead.
It also has a purpose because they're about to throw him away. So the like window open, like him coming into the window and everything.
Yeah.
The doctor like has to put down the bag.
That's
and,
a good point.
Like,
I actually
starts the whole Rube Goldberg machine of like the fucking magical flight / like rescue from without.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That was a slight nitpick I had narratively, is that it felt like Marlin didn't even necessarily need to go on this adventure to save Nemo, because Nemo basically gets out himself. But you're right, he only ends up in that situation because Marlin flew in with Nigel and caused all this chaos, which allowed this moment of escape.
Yeah, for sure. And again, the movie is about Marlin learning to trust.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you could totally argue like, did he even need to be there?
Yeah.
He did, so he could learn.
Exactly. Yeah. So he could have his hero's journey, 100%. We we go to Dory and
I do want to say there's this very cool transition. The match cut from the Sydney water treatment when Nemo goes through to the pipe, right?
yeah,
Kind of setting up visually like this is a connector.
yeah. No, I like that.
And Nigel also Jeffrey Rush, so much emotion in that one line, like where he says, "I'm so sorry," or what, I can't
Yeah,
remember what he says.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. And then we get Dory and Marlin having a very one of the most heartfelt moments of the movie for sure. I think. Basically, Marlin is giving up all hope. This is him. I think this is a good moment to call the what's it called? The refusal of the return here, where Marlin's given up all hope and he's ready to give up on Dory as well. He's lost. It's not that he's lost trust necessarily. It's just that he doesn't care to have this connection anymore.
But he thanks her. He does thank her.
He thanks her. And yeah, Dory. This was definitely one of the most emotional parts for me. Dory pleading with Marlin to not leave her, and she says, "I look at you and I'm home." This is for the first time to where she can actually remember something, because I guess he gave her meaning to have to remember it, kind of thing.
It almost like backwards like contextualizes why her memory's been so good throughout the movie.
Yeah,
Like it gives a reason to this
right.
thing that could
because
be
she has purpose.
that could be a flaw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. She was aimless before. Now he's given her purpose, and dude, which is explored, I think, later on in Finding Dory. Of course.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's great.
That'll
We'll
be
have
in
to
the-
do that one for sure.
Yeah, we have a long list of sequels in our category, our sequel category.
Going back for seconds, baby.
Going back for seconds. Yeah, she then meets Nemo, and I thought this was really funny. Nemo introduces himself to her. And she goes, "Oh, Nemo, that's a nice name."
It's set up the whole time. Yeah, I have that as well. I also love that they're looking for the same person, but they don't know that they're looking for the same person.
Yeah, and yeah, it's so sad to see Dory in this state where she's just like anxious and she knows there's something that she can't quite remember, but she doesn't know what
Yeah,
it is.
it is very
I mean, I know people with dementia.
yeah, I was gonna say very evocative of dementia.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. Sad, for sure. But then, yeah, they're reunited. I did feel slightly underwhelmed by by Marlin and Nemo reuniting themselves. Like it works, but I guess it didn't feel like the big swell of a moment I would expect for kind of the big moment of being back together. But there is more tension to happen too, so maybe that's part of it.
I think it's so satisfying when Dory remembers everything.
Oh yeah.
When she's like, "Oh yeah, you're Nemo. We have to go like."
Well, that part, yeah, for sure.
Find
I
Marlin.
meant more the actual reuniting of Marlin and Nemo.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's just kinda
I
like
think
he's
it.
just swimming back and they
There's-
embrace.
There's more to be. There's more work to be done. I do like there is this part where the she asked the crab which way Marlin went, and we've already set this up because the seagulls are all like mine the first time to the crab
Yeah.
that Nigel has, and so she takes the crab above water and like threatens him by offering him up to the seagulls.
That part's really good.
Yeah,
I like that.
Like again, like thought, like
Mhm.
intention, like we're gonna have the scene later.
Right.
Let's set this up here.
Right.
Thoughtfully done.
Totally. I agree. Quickly though, Dory is captured in this big net. Again, humans, probably American. No, but this is really the climax and the kind of full circle moment for Marlin. Marlin has to trust Nemo here. He has to let Nemo go into the net in order to try to save Dory. He has to trust. I mean, that's what this has all been building up to, especially since he just got him back. It would be extremely hard for any parent, whether or not you have attachment issues in this moment, to let Nemo go.
And he has to believe that he can do it. And he finally says, because he said it a few times, he says, "You can't, Nemo, you can't." And this time he says, "I know that you can."
Yeah, and I actually have this moment as the apotheosis, just because.
Yeah, for sure. This feels much a stronger, emotionally evocative moment for that.
Totally.
And then the boon of being able to free themselves from the friggin' traps of being eaten by a commercial cannery.
Yeah, and just to backtrack really quick, was the atonement with the father, was that, did you have that in the whale, in the mouth of the whale?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I actually did too. I just misread my notes. I think I mixed it up with the apotheosis. So yeah, I also had needing to let go is kind of
Yeah,
of
yeah,
his
for
moment.
sure.
Yeah,
And he lets go.
and
That's
then
the atonement part to me.
yeah, totally. And then here it's kind of now he's using what he learned with the atonement and letting go of Nemo here, which is kind of the full rebirth of his character,
Yeah.
I would say. And then you get this nice moment. I also have this is kind of Rescue from Without when they
But
were
what rescue from within?
what Rescue from Within with all the other fish helping out here.
Making my glasses go up and down.
uh, the just keep swimming phrase, it really shows that it is
Everything serves a purpose.
yeah, it's a core to the movie. Again, it is like we've used it now twice, I think, but it is kind of the crux of the core message of this movie is just keep swimming, move forward, like don't just live in the past of your trauma, right?
Yeah, like, and also like ultimately trust yourself.
Yeah. Trust yourself, trust those around you. And yeah, they break free. They just keep swimming. A very triumphant moment as you see like the ship just can't totally like, it just slowly kind of starts to crumble, the mechanisms holding up this net. I love that a lot. Great little scene. Yeah, then I have them.
They cross the return threshold.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting thing I wanted to bring up is that I feel like in a lot of ways, even though this might not be the movie that follows the hero's journey the closest, I do think that it is more of what you would expect from the typical hero's journey.
It has the clearest return in it, for sure.
Yeah, where it is really, when I first read through the hero's journey steps and beats, it really does feel like this is modeled around something like the Odyssey or, Prometheus, where you have to go accomplish something and then you bring that thing back home.
Yeah.
And so this is definitely that here. This is the return of the threshold back home, back where we started. We've brought all of the lessons learned with us to the place we started. And in a lot of ways, the hero's journey is complete here. He can now tell the joke without hesitating.
Yeah, for sure.
He's funny again. He's charming again. He's ready to let go of his son and trust in him. He's found faith in himself. Yeah.
There's also, Nemo says, "That's my dad," and he sounds so proud, and that's so beautiful. I also have a note here. As we heard in the last episode, there were some flashbacks in Spider-Man that I was like, don't feel entirely necessary to me. The flashback in this, like in the end of this movie, where it flashes back to the egg again.
Oh, yeah.
Now that's a fucking flashback, dude.
Yeah.
It's just one little boom, just nugget of emotion.
Yeah. No, really strong. I definitely, like I said, I didn't get hit in the feels for a lot of the movie, but there's a few parts here that definitely did get me, and that was one of them. Yeah, and then so going back to the Master of Two Worlds, which is the second to last step, kind of in a lot of ways the most important step of the hero's journey, I think, in a lot of ways, and that is that he is now master of his life before, which is just being a father, but now he's also a master of like his confidence and his trust,
his internal and external world.
Yes, that's really a good way to put it. Yeah, because it's not just that he now trusts his son more; it's now that he has kind of put his past to bed a bit. So it's almost like he's a master of his past and his present.
Yeah,
is the two worlds in a way.
He can trust himself.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, freedom to live. I mean, that's the final step of the hero's journey.
Really, what's like shown in the last scene and the way they're living is it feels like they are not living in a way out of fear, out of anxiety. And I love that we get the sharks come back. We got Squirt there.
Yeah.
Like we got some nice little like cameos. It's a feel good, great way to end like an animated kids movie.
Totally. And then we also get the rest of the tank squad. The tank hood, yeah, as they called it.
Yeah, they get out.
They escape. They get into the water. There's a moment of like, wait, but they're still stuck in the bags.
Now what?
Now what?
Which I love because I don't think the now what is like, how do we get out of the bags? It's like, what do we do with our lives now?
With our freedom to live.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. It's great.
Yeah, it is great. Then we get the Beyond the Sea cover of Frank Sinatra in the outro credits. I'm a big fan of that song, so I was happy to sit through the
Yeah,
credits
yeah,
and
it's
just
nice.
enjoy it.
And the credits look great. They're super fun.
Yeah, they have Nigel like showing up and he's like looking at the credits pass by and stuff. A lot of like just playful Pixar stuff. Has just shows emphasizes just how good they are with their tone and their vibe and their heartwarming.
Absolutely. I also think there is this really, really salient part where Nemo goes off with the class and he's like, wait, I forgot something. And he swims back to his dad and he hugs him and he says, I
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah.
And like he holds on just a little bit. He's like, okay, you can let me go now. But it's this like, acceptance of like, I think it's such a big trope for kids to be like, get off me, dad. But he like willingly goes back to give his dad a hug, and that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Really fucking awesome. Like feels so good. In the Matrix and in Spider-Man, there are a lot of really awesome moments, but nothing really gets to me or speaks to me as much as personal growth, as much as and Neo believing in himself, that's beautiful. But dude, this guy, like, his relationship with his son was at risk, with the way that he was approaching life, his relationship with himself, honestly.
Yeah.
And so this kind of return, this kind of evolution, progression as a human being, these stories that despite them being fish feel so fucking human, they're really they have such a strong impact on me. And I mean, I'm gonna say, dude, I think this is my favorite of the movies we've watched so far.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that because it's between this and Matrix, but I am such an emotional person, and family means so much to me, and it just really. And man, I struggle with believing in myself. Like we said, we're going off on this sort of hero's journey of our own. Like we have to have the belief in ourselves that we are entertaining enough to carry a potentially 2-hour long conversation about animated fish. And you know what, dude? I do, man. I do. And it's because of, and these stories that just kind of really are so encouraging, so inspiring, dude, We're just going to keep swimming, dude. We're going to keep podcasting. No one's going to fucking stop us.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's a really nice bow on this. I'm gonna disappoint you here. It was my least favorite of the three we watched so far. I had some criticisms for sure. I definitely I felt a little underwhelmed for a little bit of it, and then the theme started clicking with me more, and I got more into it. There was definitely some heartfelt stuff that I enjoyed. I loved it visually, and yeah, the themes are great, and so much. We talked about this in the first episode a bit. So much of your relationship with a movie is contextual. The time and place you're at when you watch this. So I could definitely see coming back to this movie, especially if I have kids, like coming back to this and just being absolutely wrecked by it, But it pulled on my heartstrings a bit, but not a ton, I would say. Like I definitely appreciated the themes, appreciated the characters, appreciated the journey here. Liked it, didn't love it, I guess. That being said, I think
I'm not disappointed in you. I would be disappointed if you didn't express the way that you felt.
Good. Well, I really wanted to. Like it. Well, it's funny because we were talking to our good friends who I'm sure will be mentioned many times on this podcast, Eugene and Elena, and we were asking them what they tier rating would be for The Matrix and Spider-Man. And there's a little bit of hesitation, kind of trying to figure out what it was. But when we ask what their tier rating would be for Finding Nemo,
easy,
Milena was just no hesitation,
Absolutely.
S tier. So part of it might be that I came in with very high expectations because of that, So, hard to say.
For sure, absolutely hard to say. Also, I do want to interject here and say we have decided that we are going to do a full tiered out episode at some point. I'm teasing it, dude. I don't give a fuck. I'm teasing it. So, though it's been fun, we are going to keep the tiers from the ends of the episodes, and we will be tiering all of the movies in a later episode.
For sure.
It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. You're going to hear us get super nerdy, talk about fucking lists and stuff, graphs, charting.
All of the hottest
ranking,
content.
All that shit, all that nerdy shit you fucking nerds love to nerd out about.
Yep.
But yeah. Fuck, dude. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so
Next week.
we're gonna do.
That's right, folks. We're gonna be doing Star Wars 1977.
Episode 1. No,
well,
sorry, episode 4.
Not
A New
episode
Hope.
1. Yeah. It's interesting because like I was even thinking like, do we call it Star Wars New Hope in the title? Do we just call it Star Wars? Like because it had different titles throughout history.
Just Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Just the Star Wars.
I think we both love Star Wars. Very excited for that episode. We might even have a guest on for that one. That'll be fun. And yeah, we'll conclude our journey through the hero's journey.
Yeah, and I just want to set up a little bit of excitement because Connor and I have been super excited about this aspect of it for a while. This will be the regular sort of format from now on, where at the end of the 4th episode of a month, the two of us will be spinning the movie roulette, and we will be saying what the next category is. So for this whole month, we knew, we set this up, we had an idea. But yeah, this is good. You'll get to hear us live react to.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're gonna do after Star Wars. So both Alfredo and I have been very eager and excited to see what's gonna be next because we have a bunch of fun categories and
Yeah, we got them lined up and we'll shout them out when we spin the wheel at the end of the Star Wars episode.
Hell yeah, brother! I'm excited.
Yeah, I had a great time talking about this movie. Fuck yeah, see you next week in a galaxy far, far away.
Can't wait.